The village square was packed with people. Women in colorful wrappers sat on wooden benches while men stood under the mango trees, their faces serious. Grace stood in the center, her head bowed, her white church dress almost glowing in the afternoon sun. She looked peaceful, wholly even. But the whispers around her were sharp as broken glass. "Can you believe it?" someone hissed. "After everything we thought about her." The chief elder raised his wrinkled hand, and the crowd fell silent. His eyes swept across the gathering before settling on Grace. "Before we begin this ceremony," he announced slowly, "there is a matter of grave importance we must address first." Grace's hands trembled slightly. The crowd leaned forward, hungry for answers. 6 months earlier, everything was different. Grace was the girl everyone praised. Every Sunday, her voice would rise above the choir, clear and beautiful like morning bells. After service, she helped elderly women carry their bags. She taught children Bible verses under the church pavilion, her smile patient and kind. Mothers pointed at her, telling their daughters, "See Grace. That's how a good girl behaves. Be like her." Grace would lower her eyes modestly, as if embarrassed by the attention. She wore simple clothes, spoke softly, and never argued with anyone. The pastor called her a blessing to our community. But what nobody knew was that Grace had another life. A secret life that began the moment church ended. That Sunday afternoon, Grace told her mother she was visiting Aunt Kem in the next village. Her mother smiled and packed her some plantain chips for the journey. Grace walked down the dusty road in her modest church wrapper, carrying a small bag. But when she reached the junction where the road split in two, she didn't take the path to Aunt Kem's house. Instead, she hid behind the old baobab tree and pulled out different clothes from her bag. The modest wrapper came off. She slipped into tight jeans and a revealing top. From another pocket, she took out red lipstick and applied it carefully. Then she stood by the roadside and waited. Within minutes, a motorcycle appeared, heading toward Nkom City. The motorcycle driver barely glanced at her. He knew the routine. Grace climbed on, and they sped toward the city, leaving dust clouds behind them. The city was loud, crowded, and full of tall buildings that seemed to touch the sky. Grace loved it here. Nobody knew her. Nobody called her the church girl. She was just another pretty face in the crowd. At the city junction, the motorcycle stopped. Grace paid the driver and walked toward a row of parked cars. A sleek black car flashed its lights twice. Grace's heart beat faster as she approached. The window rolled down, revealing a fat man with gold rings on every finger. "You're late," Chief Obaid said, but he was smiling. Chief Obaid was a wealthy merchant who dealt in imported goods. He was old enough to be Grace's father, but that didn't matter to him. He opened the car door, and Grace slid into the soft leather seat. The car smelled like expensive cologne and new money. They drove to a fancy restaurant where the plates were so clean they reflected your face. Grace ordered food she couldn't even pronounce. Chief Obaid watched her eat, amused by her excitement. After lunch, he handed her an envelope thick with naira notes. "For being such good company," he said. Grace's fingers trembled as she took it. This was more money than her father made in 3 months. She felt guilty for half a second, then the feeling passed. Back in the village, Grace's best friend Kioni sat under the coconut tree, braiding a younger girl's hair. Some women nearby were gossiping, as they always did. "Grace is too perfect," one woman said, her voice dripping with suspicion. "Nobody is that good all the time," another woman agreed. "And have you seen her clothes lately? That new wrapper she wore last week cost more than what we make selling vegetables for a month." Kioni's hand stopped moving in the girl's hair. She felt anger rise in her chest. "Grace is a hard worker," she defended sharply. "She saves every penny. You people are just jealous because she's better than your daughters." The women exchanged knowing looks but said nothing more. Kioni went back to braiding, but doubt had planted its first seed. Later that evening, Kioni visited Grace's house. They sat on the veranda, talking about nothing important, the way friends do. Grace's mother brought them zobo to drink. As they chatted, Kioni noticed Grace's bag lying open near the door. Something sparkled inside. When Grace went to help her mother with dinner, Kioni's curiosity pulled her toward the bag. She peeked inside and froze. There, wrapped in cloth, was a bottle of perfume. Not the cheap kind they sold in the village market. This was foreign perfume, the kind she'd only seen in magazines. The bottle was crystal clear with gold letters. Kioni's heart pounded. She quickly covered it back up, but questions screamed in her mind. "Grace, where did you get that perfume in your bag?" Kioni asked when Grace returned. Grace's smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. "Oh, that. Aunt Nkem gave it to me. She got it from someone in the city." The lie came out smooth, practiced. Kioni wanted to believe her friend. She wanted to believe so badly that she pushed her doubts away. "That was nice of her," Kioni said, but her voice sounded uncertain even to herself. Grace changed the subject quickly, talking about the upcoming Thanksgiving festival. The village held it every year to thank God for the harvest. This year, Grace had been chosen to lead the ceremony. Her family was already bragging to everyone who would listen. The following week, Grace made another trip to the city. This time, she met someone different. Senator Dogo was a politician whose face appeared on campaign posters all over the state. He had heard about Grace from Chief Obaid and wanted to meet her himself. They met at a hotel so fancy Grace felt dizzy just walking through the lobby. Senator Dogo was smooth-talking and powerful. He promised her things Chief Obaid never did. A job in the city, maybe even a house, connections to important people. All she had to do was keep him company, be seen with him at certain events. Grace knew she should refuse. Something about his smile didn't reach his eyes. But the promise of more money, more status, more escape from village poverty was too tempting. Grace started seeing both men, Chief Obaid and Senator Dogo. She convinced herself she was being smart, not greedy. Chief Obaid soon heard rumors. "Be careful with Dogo," he warned her during one of their meetings. "That man is involved in things that could destroy you." Grace laughed off his concern. She was young and felt invincible. Senator Dogo seemed to genuinely like her. One evening, he took her to a secret apartment in the wealthiest part of the city. The apartment was stunning, with marble floors and chandeliers. But Grace quickly realized this wasn't a romantic hideaway. Other girls were there, some younger than her. Men in expensive suits came and went, discussing deals that sounded illegal. Grace felt trapped but said nothing. Weeks passed, and Grace balanced her two lives like a dancer on a rope. In the village, she remained the perfect church girl. In the city, she became someone else entirely, someone who laughed too loud and wore makeup too thick. But cracks were forming. She became paranoid, constantly checking her phone, jumping at unexpected sounds. Senator Dogo's world was growing darker. Grace overheard conversations about bribes, threats, and police investigations. One night, a woman she'd seen at the apartment pulled her aside. "Girl, get out while you can," the woman whispered urgently. "Dogo is being investigated. When he falls, everyone around him falls too." Grace's blood turned cold. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her name was in his phone. Her pictures were in that apartment. She was tangled in his web. Back in the village, people started noticing Grace's strange behavior. She was jumpy, easily irritated, and sometimes she forgot to smile her practice smile. During choir practice, she snapped at a child who sang off-key. The other choir members exchanged surprised glances. Grace, "Are you all right?" the choirmaster asked gently. She forced a smile. "I'm fine, just tired." But she wasn't fine. Guilt was eating her alive, and fear followed close behind. That night, Kioni came to visit her. They sat in Grace's room, the silence heavy between them. Kioni had been watching her friend closely, seeing the changes, the lies piling up. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. "Grace," Kioni said softly, "what are you hiding?" Grace's face hardened. "Hiding? What are you talking about?" Her voice was sharp, defensive. Kioni flinched but pressed on. "You're different. You disappear for days. You have things you can't afford. You're lying to everyone, including me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Grace stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. "You're jealous. That's what this is. You can't stand that I'm doing better than you." Kioni's eyes filled with tears. "Better? Grace, I don't care about your money or your clothes. I care about you. I'm your friend. Please, just tell me the truth." But Grace's pride wouldn't let her. "Get out," she said coldly. Kioni left, heartbroken. Their friendship, built over years, cracked like dry earth. That night, through her window, Kioni saw Grace sneaking out of the village again. In Com City, everything exploded. Police raided the secret apartment Senator Dogo had taken Grace to. They burst through the doors at dawn, guns drawn, shouting commands. Inside, they found evidence of corruption, illegal deals, and photographs of everyone who'd been there. Grace wasn't at the apartment that day, but her belongings were. Her jewelry box sat on a dresser. Her expensive clothes hung in a closet. Photographs of her with Senator Dogo were scattered across a table. An investigating officer picked up one of the photos, studying Grace's face. "She's young," he noted. His partner shrugged. "They all are. These politicians prey on village girls with big dreams." The officer noticed something else. In the background of one photo, Grace wore a uniform. A church uniform with a village name embroidered on it. The investigation spread like wildfire. Senator Dogo was arrested, and his network began to unravel. Journalists wrote stories, newspapers printed photos, and television stations broadcast reports. Grace's picture appeared in several articles, though her name wasn't mentioned at first. But in the city, people who recognized her started talking. "That's the girl from Umuoji village," someone said. "The one who acts so holy in church." Word travels fast, especially when it's scandalous. Within days, the police had her full name. Grace didn't know any of this yet. She was back in the village, preparing for the Thanksgiving festival, believing she was still safe. She practiced her speech, tried on her ceremonial dress, and smiled at everyone who congratulated her. She had no idea that her world was about to collapse completely. The day of the Thanksgiving festival arrived. The village was decorated with palm fronds and colorful ribbons. Women cooked huge pots of jollof rice and goat meat. Children ran around excitedly in their best clothes. The church choir sang beautifully, their voices rising to the sky. Grace stood on the stage in a magnificent white dress embroidered with gold thread. She looked like an angel, and everyone said so. Her parents sat in the front row, beaming with pride. The chief elder began the ceremony with prayers and blessings. Grace felt safe here, surrounded by people who admired her, protected by the image she had built so carefully. But then, a sound cut through the celebration. A motorcycle engine, loud and insistent, approaching fast. People turned to look. The motorcycle stopped just outside the gathering. A man in uniform climbed off, his boots crunching on the dry ground. He wore the badge of a police investigator. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through grass. The officer walked straight toward the stage, his face stern and professional. He carried a brown file folder under his arm. Grace's heart began to pound so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The officer reached the stage and faced the chief elder. "I apologize for interrupting this ceremony," he said loudly, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. "But I am here on official business." He opened the file folder. Inside were photographs, documents, and statements. He looked directly at Grace. "Where is Grace, daughter of Nena?" he asked. Everyone stared at her. Grace couldn't move. Her legs felt like they were made of stone. Her mother stood up, confused and frightened. "That's my daughter. What is this about?" The officer's face showed no emotion. "Your daughter is wanted for questioning in connection with an ongoing investigation involving Senator Dogo and illegal activities in Com City." The crowd gasped collectively. Someone screamed. Grace's father looked like he'd been struck by lightning. "There must be a mistake," Grace's mother cried. "My daughter is a good girl. She goes to church. She teaches children." She wouldn't, but the officer was already showing the elders the contents of the file. Photographs of Grace in revealing clothes, at the secret apartment, with men old enough to be her grandfather. Each photo was a nail in the coffin of her carefully constructed image. Kioni saw the photos from where she stood in the crowd. Her hands flew to her mouth as tears streamed down her face. All the signs she'd ignored, all the warnings she'd dismissed, suddenly made terrible sense. The expensive perfume, the strange absences, the lies, the angry outbursts. Grace had been living a double life, and Kioni, her best friend, had been too trusting to see it. Other villagers' reactions were less kind. "I knew it," someone shouted. "She was too perfect to be real." Mothers pulled their daughters close, as if Grace's shame was contagious. Grace looked around desperately, searching for a friendly face, an escape route, anything. She tried to run, but villagers blocked every path. They formed a human wall around her, trapping her in the center of her own disgrace. There was nowhere to go. The elders commanded everyone to sit. Grace was brought before them, standing in her beautiful white dress that now felt like a costume. Chief Elder Okonkwo looked at her with such disappointment that Grace felt her knees weaken. "Grace," he said quietly, "we gave you honor. We trusted you. We held you up as an example to our children. Now you will explain yourself." Grace opened her mouth, but no sound came out. What could she say? That she was tired of being poor. That she wanted nice things. That the praise felt good even though it was built on lies. The elders waited. The crowd waited. Even the birds in the trees seemed to stop singing, waiting for her confession. Finally, Grace took a shaky breath and began to speak words that would change everything. "I was tired," Grace began, her voice barely a whisper. "Tired of being poor. Tired of watching my mother break her back farming for pennies. Tired of wearing the same 3 dresses and pretending it didn't matter." Her voice grew stronger, bitter. "You all praised me, called me perfect, but nobody asked if I was happy. Nobody cared that I went to bed hungry sometimes. You just wanted someone to point at and say, 'Be like Grace.'" Tears ran down her face, smudging her makeup. "So yes, I met men in the city. Rich men who gave me money and gifts. I lied about it because I knew you would judge me. And I was right." She looked at the crowd with defiance mixed with shame. "But I didn't know Senator Dogo was a criminal. I just wanted to escape this village and the poverty that suffocates us all." The chief elder's face was grave. He conferred with the other elders in hushed tones while the village watched. Finally, he stood. "Grace, your pain is understandable, but your choices were wrong. Poverty is not a license for deception. You have broken the trust of this community." He paused, measuring his words carefully. "You must face the legal consequences of your association with Senator Dogo. The officer will take you for questioning. But afterward, you must return here for moral restitution. You will work to rebuild what you destroyed, not through punishment, but through honest service. Grace nodded, numb. Her parents wept openly. The officer stepped forward with handcuffs, but before he could reach her, Kioni pushed through the crowd. "Wait," she called out. "Please, just 1 minute." The officer looked at the elders, who nodded. Kioni approached Grace, tears streaming down both their faces. "Was I ever your friend?" Kioni asked, her voice breaking. "Or was I just part of your performance? Someone who made you look good because I defended you?" Grace collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "You were the only real thing in my life, Kioni. Everything else was fake, but you were real. I'm so sorry." She reached for Kioni's hand. "I was scared you'd stop loving me if you knew the truth. I thought I had to be perfect for everyone, even you." Kioni knelt beside her, taking her hand. "I never needed you to be perfect. I just needed you to be honest." They embraced, crying together, while the village watched in silence. Then the officer gently pulled Grace to her feet. She was led to the motorcycle, her white dress dirty now, her pride shattered. As they drove away, Grace looked back one last time at the only home she'd ever known. The days after Grace's arrest were strange in the village. At first, there was only gossip and scandal. But slowly, something shifted. Parents began to realize they had created impossible standards for their children. They had worshipped Grace's image of perfection instead of teaching their children about honesty and humility. Church leaders held meetings about pride and authenticity. The pastor admitted they had all failed Grace by putting her on a pedestal instead of walking alongside her. Kioni became quieter, more thoughtful. She stopped trying to defend people's reputations and started asking deeper questions about character. 3 months later, news arrived. Grace had cooperated with the investigation and had been released. She wasn't coming back to the village yet, but she was alive and, according to the letter she sent, finally learning to be honest with herself. The village waited to see what would happen next. 6 months after the scandal, Grace returned. She came on a Monday afternoon, walking the dusty road alone, carrying nothing but a small bag. She wore a simple dress, no makeup, no jewelry. When she reached the village square, people stopped and stared. Grace went directly to the chief elder's house and knelt before him. "I have come to fulfill my restitution," she said quietly. The elder studied her face and saw something different there. Humility. Real humility, not the false modesty she'd worn before. Grace began working in the village, cleaning the church, helping in the farms, teaching children not Bible verses, but life lessons about honesty. She spoke openly about her mistakes. Some people forgave her quickly. Others took longer. But Grace didn't run anymore. She faced each day with truth. And that night, the elder told the gathered villagers, "A good reputation means nothing if it is built on lies. True character is who you are when nobody is watching." The crowd dispersed quietly, each person carrying that question home. In your own life, are you building a name, or wearing one? Thanks for watching. Please like this video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to hear more stories.